Vlad Tepes was a prince of Wallachia who ruled in 1448, then from 1456 to 1462 and in 1476. Vlad Tepes was born around December 1431 AD in Sighisoara Fortress, Transylvania, Romania. His father's name was Basarab, namely Vlad II, who was known as Vlad Dracula because of his membership in the Order of the Dragon. Dracula's father was a military commander who was more often on the battlefield than at home. Practically, Dracula only knew the figure of his mother, Sighisoara, who was a nobleman from the Kingdom of Moldavia. His mother did provide love and education for Dracula, but that was not enough to face the tense situation in Wallachia, which is now part of Romania. Massacres have become a daily spectacle. A king who was still in power last night, in the morning his head was paraded around the city by the rebels. At the age of 11, Dracula and his younger brother, Radu, were sent to Turkey. This was done by his father, as a guarantee of his loyalty to the Ottoman Empire, which had helped him seize the throne of Wallachia from the hands of János Hunyadi. While in Turkey, the brothers converted to Islam, and they even attended a madrasa to study religious knowledge. Unlike his younger brother who studied diligently, Dracula often stole time to watch the execution in the square. He was so happy to see a disembodied head mounted on the end of a spear, that even if there was no death penalty for a day, he immediately caught a bird or mouse, then tortured it with a small spear until it died. With his Muslim status, Dracula had the opportunity to study military training with the Ottoman soldiers, who were known to be skilled in fighting. In a short time, he was able to master the art of Turkish warfare, even more than other Turkish soldiers. This attracted the attention of Sultan Muhammad II. Until 1448 AD, following the death of his father and older brother, Mircea, who were killed in a coup organized by János Hunyadi, the Turkish Empire sent Dracula to seize Wallachia from the hands of the Cross of the Hungarian Kingdom. At that time Dracula was 17 years old. With Turkish help, Dracula was able to seize the throne of Wallachia. After that, most of the troops returned to Turkey, leaving a small part in Wallachia. Unexpectedly, Dracula apostatized and betrayed. He declared his separation from Turkey. The remaining Turkish soldiers in Wallachia were arrested. After several days of being held captive in the basement, they were paraded completely naked to the execution ground on the edge of the city. In this place, all the remaining Turkish soldiers were executed by impaling them, namely by having their anus pierced with a pointed block the size of an arm, then staked in the middle of the field. 2 months later, János Hunyadi succeeded in seizing the throne of Wallachia from Dracula. However, from 1456 to 1462, Dracula returned to power in Wallachia. This period of his reign was a time of very terrible terror. The victims of his sadistic actions were not only the Muslims who lived in Wallachia, but also the landowners and people of Wallachia who were Catholics. On Easter Day in 1459, Dracula gathered the nobles and landowners, along with their families, in a church for a banquet. After everyone had finished eating, he ordered everyone present to be arrested. The nobles who were involved in the murder of their father and brother were killed by impalement, while the others were made slaves to build a fort for emergency purposes in the city of Panari, on the banks of the Agres River. The Greek historian, Chalcondyles, estimates that the number of prisoners reached 300 heads of families, consisting of men and women, parents and even children. Dracula's actions against Muslims in Wallachia were even more sadistic. During his reign, no less than 300,000 Muslims were massacred. This sadistic event began with the massacre of Turkish soldiers, after Dracula announced his resistance to that country. Then in 1456, Dracula burned alive 400 young Turks who were studying in Wallachia. They were arrested, stripped naked, paraded around the city, then put in a hall. Then the hall was burned with hundreds of young Turks in it. Another brutal action was the burning of Wallachian Muslim farmers and poor people at the coronation ceremony of his reign. These peasants and poor people were gathered at a dinner in one of the palace rooms. Without realizing they were locked from the outside, then the room was burned. Dracula's revenge against Turkey and Islam is getting worse. To celebrate the anniversary of Saint Bartholomew in 1459, he ordered his troops to arrest Turkish traders in Wallachia. Within a month, 30,000 Turkish traders and their families were gathered. The captured traders were stripped naked, then led to the impalement field, then they were impaled one by one. Dracula also spread a deadly disease virus to areas inhabited by Muslims. He also ordered his troops to poison the Danube River to kill the Turkish troops who were building strongholds south of the river. In 1462 AD, the Turkish Sultan Muhammad II sent 60,000 troops to capture Dracula dead or alive. The leader of the troops is Radu, who is Dracula's younger brother. Knowing this attack plan, Dracula prepared his cruelest action to welcome the Turkish troops. A week before the attack, he ordered his troops to hunt down all the remaining Muslims in his territory, and 20,000 Muslims were gathered consisting of captured Turkish troops, farmers and other people. For 4 days, they were led completely naked from Tirgoviste to the banks of the Danube River. 2 days before the battle, the prisoners were impaled en masse in a field. The impaled corpses were then dragged to the river bank, then staked on the left and right of the road, which stretched for 10 kilometers to welcome the Turkish troops. This terrible sight almost made the Turkish troops mentally fall, but their spirits rose again when they saw the Sultan so bravely attacking the enemy. They continued to push forward, pushing Dracula's troops past Tirgoviste to the Panari fortress. Turkish troops led by Radu managed to surround Panari fortress. Feeling pressured, Dracula's wife chose to commit suicide by jumping from one of the castle towers. Meanwhile, Dracula fled to Hungary through a secret passage. Until 1475 AD, Wallachia was controlled by the Turkish kingdom, before finally being recaptured by Dracula, who was supported by Crusader troops from Transylvania and Moldavia. In December 1476, Dracula died in battle against Turkish troops led by Sultan Muhammad II on the shores of Lake Snagov. Dracula's head was cut off, then taken to Constantinople to be shown to the Turkish people, while his body was buried in the Snagov monastery by monks. However, the Romanian government considers him a national hero because of his death in the war against Islam. Apart from stories passed down from generation to generation by the Romanian people, historical evidence regarding Dracula's dark history is also well recorded in a number of pamphlets circulating in Germany and Russia.